Over 2/3 of young carers in the UK are severely bullied in schools. More than half of those young carers feel unsupported or misunderstood by their teachers. More worryingly, 39% of those young carers say that none of their teachers in their schools were even aware of their caring role. It's sad to discover that so many young carers have to endure bullying, mental health problems, and the lack of support given from their teachers.
During this short documentary, I am going to focus on two key questions. Who are young carers and what support is given to them? I will talk to charities, student support in schools, and young carers themselves to determine why they are neglected, why they have been made invisible, and why assistance is never there when they need it the most.
Young carers deserve a voice. Let's give them one.
What is the definition of a young carer? A young carer is anyone that cares for a family member or a friend who, due to illness, disability, mental health problems, or addiction, cannot cope without their support. The typical age range would start from primary school up to adulthood. In some cases, there are young carers. It has been during the past 15 years that young carers have gradually become recognised and accepted as a social issue. And they don't just care. Care is given on a personal matter as well. They feed them, they shower them, they supervise them. 1/3 of children in the world will do the financial business. But what do the public think a young carer is?
I think a young carer is somebody who's compassionate, somebody who has sympathy with the individual who may need support, that can support that individual well, and that's pretty much it, I guess.
A young child or person that goes out their way to care for somebody at home or somebody close to them.
A young carer, instant pictures of a young person that would look after probably a member of their family, parents, elderly relative or something, where they have to cope with all the day-to-day runnings of life, replace what their parents can't do.
It's kind of looking after someone, not necessarily with a disability, but that needs a bit more help than kind of usual everybody else. It would usually, I get up a lot earlier than my brother so that I can be kind of out the way when he needs everything, because then when I leave for school it's just my brother, so he's got whatever he needs to and I'm not in the way. And then when I go home, then it's kind of, because we finish school an hour earlier, so I've got that time to get what I need done before then he comes home. And then if something's happened at school, instead of telling one of the teachers or getting stressed out at school, he'll kind of hold it in and bottle it up until he gets home, and then if you ask something simple, he'll take it massively, and then because that's when you know something's happened, because of the way he comes home from school. Yes, some days it's quite easy and you're kind of just, when he's happy, everybody else can kind of just relax and be themselves. But if, like I said, if something's happened at school or he's just in a bad mood, then you've got to be careful what you say, because if it's something simple, he'll take it quite badly and just kind of think it's aimed at him, but you just mean it kind of just an overall thing.
We spoke to a local charity which told us we recognise the important role of young carers, and we offer help and support to young carers aged 8 to 18. in Bristol and South Gloucestershire. We also work with their families and professionals working with young carers. When asked what support they provide to young carers, they said, "We have a referral process to help us understand a family's circumstances and make sure we are the right organisation to offer support. We take referrals from young carers, family members or professionals." But what support do young carers actually get? Well, let's head up to student support now and find out. Can you give me a brief description of your job role and how you associate with young carers?
So my job role's changed. I've been here 8 years and it's changed. And 5 years ago, we started up a young carers group through contact with the Young Carers Support Network outside of school. And from then, really, it's just grown and grown and grown. So my role is at the moment is head of Year 9, and I have 22 young carers that I oversee. So it's anything to do with them. So if it's there's any issues with learning, for parents, for them, so anything to do with them, it will come to me, and then I can monitor, look after them, provide intervention, whatever needs to happen.
What support is given to young carers inside of school?
In this school, so I'm the designated person for young carers. So every time a young carer gets identified through maybe the tutor or the parent or themselves, then they come to me and I have a chat with them about whatever duties they have. Depending on that meeting, then they will be added to the young carers register in school. An email goes out to all of their teachers about difficulties at home and how they can support them.
Who are young carers?
They're anyone under the age of 18 that do any kind of caring duties at home outside the norm, what you would call the norm, and it can be dressing their mums or dads. It can be helping mums and dads to cope with siblings with, for example, autism, sleepless nights, emotional care for the parents and the siblings. It could be domestic violence in the house where all of you need your own individual bits of care. It could be alcoholism, it could be drugs, it could be disabilities. So it's a massive range of things that could happen that would lead to somebody being a young carer.
What are the long-lasting effects of becoming a young carer?
I would say there's lots of positives, long-lasting effects, because they are a lot more mature, they're a lot more forgiving, they're a lot more resilient. The negative would be that they don't put themselves first a lot of the time. So if they do, when you say about thinking about the future, they don't really feel that they can, because they've got other things and other people that's relying on them. So I would say that was a negative, but there are a lot of positives for when they get a bit older, because they're a lot more experienced, they've seen a lot more. I think friendships are more positive when they get older as well, because they can be around any age group rather than in school you're stuck with your own peer group. So I think there's lots of positives there.
What problems do young carers face?
Bullying a lot of the time, because they don't look the same. If the parents are poorly, their clothes don't get washed as much. They don't go out shopping as much to get new clothes. They might appear tired. They don't tend to bother with themselves too much because they've got too much going on at home. I mean, obviously it varies from case to case. Some, if it's not so much the caring side, but the emotional care, which is a lot of our young carers do have emotional care for their parents, so they're there to talk to cry with, to help pay the bills, that kind of thing. They tend to have more time for themselves, but emotionally they struggle in school. And I would say friendships are probably the biggest for the young carers here, because they have to grow up quite quickly. So their peer group is often quite young, so then they tend to go towards the older students because they're that much more mature in what they have to do every day.
The official figures suggest that there are around 200,000 children in the United Kingdom who have a caregiving role. We get that figure from the census. This is a figure in which parents who complete the census tell us that their child is a carer. And of those figures, from those figures, we know that there are approximately 40,000 children in the United Kingdom who are caregivers under the age of 12. These are children, 40,000 children, who will be going to primary school, many of whom will have started caring from the age of 5, and who will probably continue to care right throughout their childhood, and some of them into adulthood. And of those 40,000 children who are at primary school who are carers, 4,000 are providing over 50 hours of care a week. That's according to their parents completing the census. And when you ask children directly, do you provide care, you get a totally different figure from the official census. So the census tells us 200,000 children are carers. That's 2% of all children. But when you ask children directly, do you provide care, what you find is a different figure. You find that 700,000 children, that's 8% of all children in the United Kingdom, declare that they're not just doing caregiving, but they're doing the most intimate and personal caregiving.
Being a young carer isn't just for a day, it's for life. Young carers miss out on everyday things that we take for granted. Most young carers are ignored or invisible. When caring for someone you love, you create a special bond, and when that connection is broken, life can change dramatically. Did it get challenging?
It did get challenging at some points because obviously she deteriorated in front of my eyes. To watch someone like slowly disappear, it's kind of hard on someone on my age, of anyone my age. But sometimes I'd have to go outside, take a breather, maybe go for a walk or something. But that would only be if Dad was around. So
it must be really hard, especially when you have that sort of connection.
Yeah, I mean, like I wasn't really connected to my dad, really that much. So it was awkward when Mum passed away, because I had to sort of get to know him all over again. It's gonna be with me forever. Like it's gonna always be, sort of, like, oh, I want to talk to Mum, but I can't, sort of thing. But like, ever so often it will suddenly hit me. It's usually only if I am sad already, I'll think about it and it'll make me even worse. But that's it really though. Like it hits Dad more than me. Like he'll get much more upset than I do. But that's just how I deal with it, I guess. When you're caring for someone you really care about, it doesn't really matter.
So tonight when we got home from school we had to kind of be prepared because Will's got a new TA, so we got to see how he reacted. And then Will had guitar, which he liked, but was still quite stressed and frustrated after. So later I've got Scouts, so Will gets a bit of free time with Mum, which I kind of use as a break as well, because I can just like be myself around my friends. So tomorrow we're at Dad's, which should be alright, but Will doesn't stay over, which can be quite weird because he kind of always keeps you on your feet. But so without him there you kind of feel quite empty.
The issue of young carers is an issue about social justice. It's an issue about vulnerable children whose lives are restricted in some way because of having to provide significant, substantial and regular caregiving roles to other family members. But there are millions of children around the world who live in adversity, who live in difficult situations, not just because their parents are ill or disabled or have mental health problems or whatever it is, but they may be living in poverty, they may be living in families where there is HIV and AIDS, they may be living in families with domestic violence, with abuse, with neglect, and so on.